Good morning, Illini. Welcome back to another Healthy Illini podcast. I am your host, Matt Schrock, and we are getting into the fall semester. It's wild. We talk to everybody, and they're like, where did summer go? But it's time to get back into classes, time to get back into campus activities, and one of those activities is simply where you live. And so I'm excited to talk today about the residence halls we have here and give a few tips on how to make your residence hall your home. I'm joined today by two guests. First up is Marianne Brocker-Curry. She is the Director of Housing Information and Marketing. Marianne, thanks for being here.
Hi, good morning.
And I'm also joined by a student, and I love to get the student perspective, so this is really something that I really enjoy. But Lauren Jenkins is a student, staff, and former resident of the residence halls. She's a senior in advertising with a minor in informatics, and so she's going to give us that student's perspective. Lauren, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
So, I say this every year. We've done this now for a couple of years on Healthy Illini, and every fall I say the same thing about the excitement of fall and new students. And I'm feeling a little bit more this year because if you've listened to a few episodes, you do know that I have a freshman, college freshman this fall. So that's kind of new for us, my oldest. But there's always that exciting feeling of getting on campus, that excitement of new classes, of possible new friends, of new activities, of new freedom and responsibilities and all that, but it can also be a little daunting because you went from being, especially a freshman, you went from being under the covering of your parents, and really your schools decide. I mean, high schools have changed a little bit, so you do have some freedom, but for a lot of high school students, you are pretty set in what you're taking. Mm-hmm. There's a track, there's a couple of electives you can choose, but for the most part, you're taking what you're taking, and that's set for you. Now you're suddenly you're a college freshman, and you're choosing all of your classes. You have something that your advisors tell you what they think that you should take, but you have the freedom to take whatever you want. And then you have this new responsibility of your money and your transportation and your activities and your social circles and also where you live. And so one of those things that can be kind of just a totally new experience for a lot of students is the idea of going from your parents' house to a residence hall. And so I want to start with that first move in, that first place of your own. What advice do you have for a student to make it your home? Because for some students, they go from a house to a room, really. And I know you have your own bedroom at home, but you go from a house to a room, and now that room is your house. So I'm going to kind of give you an open floor here to share what advice do you have for students on how to make that room, that home feel comfortable and make it your own?
Well, I could start. I would say my best advice is try to do whatever you feel in your in your room with causing as minimal damage to the room as possible because I'm not saying you should repaint the walls or just get a whole brand new bed frame, but I would definitely say that, my freshman year, that it was a little, intimidating because I was in the room. And I came during COVID. So I came as a freshman during fall 2020, which is when, COVID was really, she was just really on and popping. So I came during that time. So it was already not only me transitioning from going from high school to college, but I had a whole chunk of my senior year, just in the house. So I was so used to being in my room, in my house. So, and I think there's a lot of people that are in my graduated class that feel the same way because, it wasn't we was, in high school going for, 8 hours and then coming back home. We were home from, March, and then all this summer, and then boom, we're back out in public and stuff like that. So I would say that, one of the things that kind of did intimidate me is, I being in, a room with just nothing but white walls and all that stuff. And I think I did have a TV in there, but it was still just, just looking at the walls, it was empty. And then when you look at my room and back in my house, it's I have photos, family photos. I had a huge thing for boy bands, so I cut, a lot of their magazines and put them on my wall. So one thing that I did to make myself more comfortable is I just said, let me just doll it up a bit, because technically speaking, the way that I always looked at it like this is you're either taking out loans or you worked hard for scholarships so that you could afford to be in the room. So that technically you pay the rent. So, you doll it up a bit and all that stuff. So I got bed sheets that fit, my style. I tried out different colors. I got I would not recommend the LED lights because, when you take those off and all that stuff. And, I am try my best not to recommend anybody do anything that's going to cost like,
Sure.
An extra $5,000, but I did get like a holographic light and all the other stuff. I switched the furniture around. A lot of people are like, like a little intimidated by moving the furniture, but like me, it's like, if you're not causing too much damage and all that stuff, if you do it especially if you do it at a time where, none of your neighbors are probably in class or going to like sleep or something like that, move the furniture around and everything, just make it like homey, because that is technically your home for like 9 months of the year for the next 4 years. Yep. If you are going back into like the same residence hall, or if you're moving, but like that, technically speaking, for majority of the year, 75% of the year, that is your home. So, you can feel entitled to do what you feel without causing as much damage as you feel.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate the don't cause damage thing. As a housing staff member, I appreciate that. But I also really agree with what you said, Lauren, about making it your own. It's really exciting that you have your own place for the first time, maybe for a lot of folks, and you want to make it your own. You want to bring things that help give you the comfort that you had at home, kind of transfer that comfort. And I always encourage people to bring things that give them joy. Like if you like to listen to music, or you like to game, or you like to work out, bring the things that support those activities that you're used to. And really, you're coming to school, you're coming to Illinois to get a great education, which is awesome. But you're also learning outside the classroom. You're also growing as a person. And you have to have all the things that you need. It's not just inside the classroom. So we want you to bring things that are going to make you successful at class, help you recharge, help you focus. So, if you have a particular study pillow or study lamp, bring those things and use those things in your room. But also think about outside of the classroom. What do you need to be comfortable? What do you need to recharge? What do you need to get involved and make the most of your time at Illinois? So we have a great packing checklist on the housing website for students who are thinking about what to bring, but also if you're already here and you're like, hey, what am I missing? What do I need to like round out my room now that I've got it decorated?
And that's what I was going to bring up, that checklist, because that helps for somebody who may have no idea where to start. Yeah. Again, we have students on the campus that have a plan for everything. They already have it figured out. I know, like I said, my daughter, she's already got her checklist of what she planned. It wasn't that she was like, I need this for my room. This. We've been working on that all summer because that's just who she is. She's a list person. That's how she is. But if you're not used to making lists and you're not sure where to start, Housing has that packing list or that blog that'll help give you some tips. One thing I'm hearing from both of you that I think is really probably the biggest key as far as making a room your home, or even later in life making a home your home, is being creative. Being creative in how you make it your home. One of the things that I love about this program is that we talk about how everyone is on their own personal journey. And those journeys have some commonalities. Every single student who is going to live in a residence hall this fall has a commonality in that they're living in a residence hall this fall. And every student that is in FARPR or in the six-pack, they have a commonality with the people that are around them. But every single one of those journeys is unique. You have a roommate, you're in the same room, you're together for 9-10 months out of the year, but your journeys are unique. Even though you are the same place, you're unique. So use that uniqueness in how you decorate what your space is, or how you enjoy your space. The other thing that I've heard from a lot of people, and maybe you can speak to this just a little bit, is from your experience, is being creative helps give you some storage space. Yeah. Because when you first move in, you may be like, oh man, if you have a roommate, I've got half a room. That doesn't feel like much space. But if you get creative, there are ways to make that space really, really functional. Yeah. So any little tips? I'm putting you on the spot on this, but any little tips on how to get creative, or things to think about when you're trying to make that space as functional yet as comfortable as possible?
I would say try to utilize as much of like the hideaway space. And I prefer like hideaway space is like space that people are not really going to see when they come into your room. So we have super tall beds, and they're not, I wouldn't say they're wide, but like the depth of like that space underneath your beds, especially like if you have like your like the desk or the cabinets, and they're like pushed all the way up, you still have like so much space. So a lot of the times what I did was, if I had like a lot of stuff that like I had like a lot of suitcases, I brought a lot of boxes with me, and I kept them just in case if I was like moving back out or if I was moving in. So a lot of the times I did like, put all that stuff like underneath. And if there were like some items, like maybe if there was like a first aid kit or stuff that I knew I was going to need at some point, but it wasn't very likely that I was going to use it, I usually kept it in those spaces. So honestly, I think, and now this also goes for like, you know, being like creative and like, you know, not just when it comes to like spacing, but like, you know, being creative and how like your room looks, is that a lot of the times, and I will say for myself included, is that you being in that space where you live, where you, a lot of people, like, they probably have like queen full-size beds or like, you know, a whole room to themselves. Not me, because I shared a room with my sister for like all my life.
Sure.
But a lot of people, when they come to campus, and I think like a lot of people from like different universities can like agree to this, your creativity level and your problem solving skills, or, you know, take advantage of certain things, those skills go up by like 100 levels, because you're in a brand new situation. So like you have like a blank canvas. So like you're not only mapping up how like your room looks, but it's like, okay, yeah, I want this and this and this, I want to bring my guitar, I want to bring this, I want to bring that, but I also gotta have room for like my broom, or if I need like a Swifter, or like if like, you know, some people like bring fans, like you need to like, you know, take advantage of space like that. So I will also say, like, you know, another like piece of advice is, before you touch anything, like take like a good look at like, you know, the spacing around your room. Before you touch anything, before you put like the bed sheets on your bed, just look at your room like as a blank canvas and kind of map out like, okay, well, this could go here, this could go there. It can be intimidating, but like if you're put in that situation, you know, you kind of like, you know, has like you're basically an adult, so you have to make like that adult type of decision.
And one of the things coming to campus is that it's okay to change. And that includes how you decorate or how you find your comfort in your room, that you may get involved in a program that you didn't know about when you first came here. There's so many opportunities here on campus that students don't even know or are even aware that are there. And so you may get into something, you're like, you know what, when I came, this was my comfort space, but now really it's kind of shifting over here. And that's okay.
Yep.
And that can be reflected in your room as well.
Absolutely. And you might even get inspiration from your floor mates or the people that live around you in figuring out how you want to configure your room. So, you know, Lauren mentioned, it sounds like she had a high loft because she had lots of space under her bed. We do have a couple of different bed configurations. Students can set those up before move-in, but certainly there's an opportunity to change that. And you can put in a maintenance request after you've arrived to have our maintenance team come and help you reconfigure your bed. So if you've got it set a certain way and you'd like to rearrange it, that's okay too. And you might, as you get to know your roommate, feel more comfortable with a different configuration, and together you choose to reconfigure the space. There's all kinds of tips and tricks for kind of how to make the most of your space. Everything from, you know, I heard someone the other day say, bring the thin plastic hangers instead of the thick because you can get more in your closet. You know, and personal preference. A lot of folks will bring things to hang over the door to store their shoes, and things to, you know, kind of create additional space or storage under the bed. Lots of like those plastic drawer containers that add to the storage space that's already underneath your bed. So there's lots of ways to make the most of your space. A lot of things that you can do to make it feel more like home without even having to hang a bunch of stuff on the walls. So there's, you know, we see lots of creative ways in which people decorate and configure. Your point earlier about getting things up off the floor really does make it feel larger, because you've got more floor space to be able to sit and lounge and hang out and invite people into your room, which is a great way to get connected on the floor. So making the most of that space and making it feel welcoming, not just to you, but to others, is a really important thing.
And that actually leads into the next thing I want to talk about. And you mentioned, you know, how you grow with your roommate or you grow with friends. That living in a residence hall and dorm life, as I like to call it, is not just about the room. It's about the opportunities that are there to grow as a person, to grow in your social aspects, to learn who you are. Because, you know, the room is not the only blank canvas you get when you step onto campus. You're kind of a blank canvas in a lot of ways too, because when a lot of students are in high school, by the time they're senior year, they kind of have their identity, whether it be through extracurriculars or their friend group or whatever it may be. They have an identity. And then they come to campus, and oftentimes they didn't bring that identity, that group with them. Those things that kind of define them in high school, good or bad, did not come with them. So now they can come on campus and they can kind of start to discover who they want to be. And sometimes you find out, yeah, I like who I was in high school. And sometimes you find out, like, you know, there's a whole world out here that I want to kind of change into. And so how does a residence hall help with that? What are the opportunities that come from being a part of that in order to get connected with campus and people in general?
Well, I would say, and I think my experience, well, I would definitely say like between like my freshman year, my first year, and my second year is because we went through like a whole bunch of regulations with COVID and everything, and then versus like we kind of lightened up, but not too much during like my second year, in fall 2021. So I would say that a lot of us did take advantage of. Even though most of them were virtual, we took advantage of like, a lot of hall groups. So when I was living at LAR my first year, there was UCNIA, which was like the Black Student Union for LAR and Allen. So I remember it was an RA. Her name was Diamond. I think she was on second floor and I was on third floor. And she had saw me and she was like, "Hey, would you like to be part of like the group? We meet on Tuesdays at this time." And I was like, "You know what? Why not?" Because like I went to like a high school. Like I think my graduating class is like 140 people. Versus going to like a college where it's like 55,000 people.
Just a few more.
So, yeah, just like a few more, not too much, but a few more. So it was like I did make a priority of like I did want to meet different people because I come from like a really smaller high school anyway. So I did take advantage of stuff like that, and I met a lot of great people. Had a lot of great conversations, had a lot of laughs with them. It kind of inspired me to like do not UCNIA, but like I did like a BSU for my junior year. So there are, and it's not even just like for like like the BSU, but there's also like the RAs. And I say this because one of my closest friends that I met at the university, she is an RA, and she always tells me about like all the the work she puts in for like her events. So like I know a lot of RAs, they take a lot of pride in like getting to know their the students that live in their hall, and they do work really hard on like doing like movie nights, game nights, or just stuff to like make sure that like everyone in like their hallway gets to know each other. And I'm she's not the only RA I know, but like a lot of people that I know who are residence advisors that really had like successful turnouts, especially with freshmen, because I feel like freshmen are very excited about stuff like that. They say like like the community in those hallways, especially on the floors, is really strong because of like the RAs. And that's what really RAs want to do. Like they understand, like, and most RAs, like, they're not freshmen, like they've been here before, so they do understand like the sense of like you had mentioned, like you being the blank canvas when you come to camp, like when you canvas when you come to campus. That's a little unintentional rhyme, but they understand that. So they're like, what, I don't only want to make sure that my students are safe, but I want to make sure that they feel safe in a way like they feel comforted when they come to campus, and everything, like they don't feel too homesick. So
yeah. I think there's lots of opportunities, both formal, some of which those RAs are facilitating, things like going to certain campus events, whether it's Welcome Week activities or encouraging other folks to join some of our hall-based groups, whether it's an identity-based group or a leadership and service group, or even hall council, where you help plan some of the events that happen in the hall. So one of the pieces of advice I always give to new students is to get involved, take advantage of as many of those things as you can, even if it feels like, man, this is a lot. Like, go to all the things, go to as many of them as you can, to get connected, because the RAs are helping build community and helping you meet each other and find your new friends. But they're also helping get you connected to the campus resources that you might need later. So whether that's McKinley Health Center or the Counseling Center or the Career Services Department, there's lots of opportunities. The RAs are trained not only to help build community, but help connect you to those resources when you need them throughout the year. So we always encourage folks to get connected and take advantage of those really formal things that happen, or more structured things that happen at the beginning of the year. But the other, like the flip side of that, is for you as a student to really take advantage of the informal things. So like, make yourself available when you're home. Don't leave your door open when you're not home, but when you're home, leave your door open and encourage people to stop by and say hi, or study out in the lounge so that you can meet people as they walk by, particularly during those first few weeks. I mean, it was a long time ago, but when I was a student here, we had a great floor, and it was because it was open and everybody was coming and going and checking in on each other. And the RA facilitated that at the beginning of the year by saying, hey, leave your doors open when you're home so we can and check in with each other. And then informally, we started to invite each other, like, hey, I'm going to go down to dinner. Do you want to come too? Or, hey, I'm going to go visit this other residence hall dining facility. It sounds like it's got a cool menu tonight. Do you want to come too? Or, hey, let's get on the bus and see if we can find the movie theater. And if we get lost, we'll just ask the bus driver how to get back. Like, so, some of those adventures are probably some of my best memories from college, where we just kind of went out on our own and tried to figure it out. And we made lots of friends along the way. So there's intentionally things for you to get connected, but there's also a ton of informal ways that you can do that too.
You mentioned something that I wanted to bring up, that one of the great ways to kind of connect with people or have an opportunity to connect with people is the dining halls, because, everybody eats. I mean, everybody eats at some point. And so simply saying, hey, when do you want to go grab a bite, or where do you want to go, is a great opener. It's a great icebreaker, quote unquote, to get you into, you're not, saying like, hey, this is my favorite activity in the world, you want to come be a part of it. And then you're kind of putting yourself out there. You're just simply saying, hey, let's go grab a bite.
Yeah.
And it gives you an opportunity to do something. And again, we have great facilities, Iconberry, ISR, all over the place, have outstanding dining halls that you can go check out and take a group with you. And while you're doing that, then community builds through those kinds of activities.
Yeah.
And so that's another great one. That's a great piece of advice to go and be a part of that. So we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours and hours. So I want to move on a little bit, because I want to want to get to the last kind of idea I wanted to point at, which was, people are listening to this. They're like, oh, these are great ideas, but I don't know what that means to be a part of BSU, or to be a part of a floor activity, or how do I find out about floor activities, or how do I find out about the dining halls? So resources on this campus are really the big thing. So I wanted to ask, if somebody's listening, they don't know where to start looking, where do they start? What's your advice what's that first step to find out what even is out there?
Well, I would say, and I say this because I am a desk clerk at Ike South. Desk clerks, we are there for 21 hours. Well, most of us are there for 21 hours, and you got Nugent, bless their hearts, that are there for 24 hours. Most of us know a lot of information about, like, okay, well, how do I get my iCard? Where do I go to eat? Where is the library? How do I get on the bus? Most of the time, I would definitely say, especially for myself, because I deal with, like, a lot of parents or a lot of students for moving day. And because they're literally the first person that you see, of course, like, if you're working at a desk, especially if you are not the person at the desk, if you see somebody at a desk, 9 times out of 10, it's like, I'm going to go to that person. If I got a question, they're at a desk for a reason. They're not just clicking a computer. Like, they had to know something.
And they're a captive audience. They can't go anywhere.
Yeah, they have to. So you see someone at the desk and everything. And then, I would say, like, the people who train the desk clerks, and not even just at Ike South, but like at Nugent, at FAR, PAR, LAR, all of the ISR, all of them, we're trained to the point where, we don't only know how to, like, just do, like, the simple things at the desk. Like, we're very prepared to, like, ask a lot of questions, like, answer a lot of questions, that is. So if there is someone who's like, hey, well, I don't know about how to do this. I remember it was like a couple of times, and I remember I talking to, like, other desk clerks about this. There was literally, like, a resident at Snyder that would come, and he'd be like, oh, well, I don't know what to get from I-57, which is, like, the little cafe area. He was like, should I get a coffee? It's like 10 o'clock. I was like, well, okay, well, we just have a whole conversation about that. And so it was, like, a lot of people who did, like, ask questions. And, we don't, if there's a time where we do not know, we know how to find it, because, like, we've been here before. So we're very open to, like, answer questions. Mm-hmm. And, especially if it's, like, the late hours and I'm not doing anything. If you have a question to ask me and I'm, just sitting at my desk, go ahead. Like, I could use, like, someone to talk to anyway. So.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So one of my favorite pieces of advice from my father is that the only silly question is the one that doesn't get asked. And so we want to make sure that folks feel empowered to ask a question of any of the staff, desk staff, the RA staff, the staff in the Housing Information Office. We are all here to help. And I always tell new students coming in, 9 times out of 10, we have an answer. We just didn't know you needed it. And the 1 out of 10 times, if we don't have the answer, we know where to refer you to get the answer. So we want you to make sure that you that you do ask the question. And there's lots of other resources too that are a little bit more passive around students in the hall. So there will be bulletin boards, there will be posters, there will be digital signs. We do have an Illinois app that has a lot of information, everything from the dining menu to being able to know when your laundry is ready. But it also has an event module and an opportunity for you to chat in a group with your floor mates. And so there will be information shared in the app, like, hey, we're tie-dyeing shirts in the lobby, come down. I saw some really creative RAs last year who used it as a way to get people connected to the hall. So like, help me find where the community kitchen is in my hall. And so they did like a scavenger hunt via the app to get people connected to the different resources that were in the hall. And it was a really cool, I was really proud of them. They did a great job. But so there's lots of ways within university housing where we're trying to make that information available passively as you need it. The RAs are kind of keeping track of the cycle of students and like, okay, sometimes this is around the time of year when people get homesick. So I'm going to make sure there's some homesick resources. Or now it's the time of year where people get really stressed with tests. I'm going to make sure there's some study tips available. So there's all kinds of opportunity to get connected to those resources. And then again, both formal and informal. There might be informal study groups on your floor. There might also be a writer's workshop in the library, and you can connect to some of those resources within university housing as well. And then there's stuff on campus too. You know, there's a huge quad day at the beginning of the year. You get connected to a bunch of different RSOs and different campus offices that will serve you throughout your time at Illinois.
Well, and you mentioned kind of in passing, but one of the biggest resources are RAs.
Yeah,
that's a great place to start. That's your starting point for any of those questions. They can direct you in the traffic that you need to go to, and you know that's one thing that on this we are a huge campus and we have a huge staff on this campus, but there are so many people on this campus that want to help students. That's why we're here. That's why we do this job, because our whole goal is to help students. And Lauren, you mentioned it that, you know, you're asked the questions. The advantage of a trained staff at the front desk is you can answer questions that students don't know they need to ask, or they don't know they're even asking. I get calls at McKinley all the time. They're like, I'm not sure if the right department, and they'll ask a question. I'm like, okay, actually what you're asking is this, and here's the information. And they're like, oh, because they don't know what they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're looking for. They don't know, you know what I mean? And so you can answer those questions where they come in and they say, you know, they ask a question about a dining option. You're like, oh, well, these are the options, and this is where they go, and so you can expound upon it. So talking to that front desk staff, talking to an RA, really gives you an opportunity to answer those questions for the students in an informed way, in a direct way. One other thing I wanted to ask about, you talked about the Illinois app, which is fantastic and is growing all the time. There is a My Housing website and portal. So would you plug that for me real quick?
Yeah, sure. So on the housing website, there's a whole section, a little tab over to the right that is called My Housing. And that's really intended to be resources for current residents. A lot of our university housing website is focused on prospective or incoming residents, and that My Housing tab is specific to our current residents. So everything from move-in to space reservations to maintenance requests. And then there is a section where you can log in to a My Housing portal that has even more detailed and personalized information. So that's where you would configure your bed, set your package notifications. You want to text when you have a package at the front desk, you can switch your package notifications. You can print out your proof of address for voter registration, or and the meal plan. You can change your meal plan. You can request a room change. The My Housing portal is dynamic, so once you're logged in, it's going to show you different links throughout the year based on the things that you might need. And then the public-facing stuff, you know, like everybody needs information about move-in. Mom, dad, grandma, aunt, and uncle might want information about move-in. So that's not behind a login. That's out on the My Housing tab, so everybody can see it. But it's just a way for residents to find the resources that they need once they're living with us. So, you know, check in your meal plan balance. You can do that in the app. You can do that in My Housing. And you can also reserve space. I think a lot of students don't know that the space in university housing, they get priority if they're a resident. So if they want to schedule a study group with their peers, they can reserve a room, or they want to have a big end of the year floor event, they can reserve a space in university housing, and they get first priority over those spaces. So, and oftentimes they're free of charge. And so that's a great opportunity too. I think when we going back to the beginning of our conversation about space, you know, you think about coming into, well, I moved out of a house and I moved into a room. Well, really, we want you to utilize the whole building. So the room is like your bedroom, but the floor lounge or the study lounge, think about that as your living room. And then you've got laundry and community kitchen down on the first level or in the basement. And you've got some common area spaces in big buildings like ISR or the IKE or STRP where you have space to spread out. So, when I had a roommate, we always talked about being respectful of each other and sharing the space that was our room. But oftentimes that meant, like, if I had to study late and she had an early class, that I'd go out in the lounge to study, or I'd go down to the main level and study. Or if she had to get up early for class and I was still sleeping, she would go, take all of her stuff and get dressed in the bathroom so that we were respectful of each other. But I really encourage students to think about the whole building as their home. So much so that we even say, for security reasons, don't hold the door open to your living room. Like, don't let people tailgate in behind you. That everybody has card access to swipe in to keep the halls safe. And so we want you to feel at home, but we also want you to protect your home and make sure that people that aren't supposed to be there aren't able to get in by following in behind you. So think about the whole space. And I think that really makes it feel less small. It gives you some more room to move about the cabin.
Well, this has been fantastic. This has been just a lot of really, really good insight and good tips. And to be honest, I'm like, man, you guys would be cool roommates. You're both really, really knowledgeable and excited about this. And I love that. And I do love our residence halls and the people that work there and the people that live there. I think it's just a really interesting community that we have, and it's a fantastic community. And so I'm excited about that. But I do want to say thank you for taking the time out today. Thank you for talking to me. And I just appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having us.
Every year there's students that come on campus, there's new opportunities, there's new exciting things, and oftentimes when we think about college experience, we immediately go to your classes and what classes are you taking. We ask, what groups are you involved in, but one of the big components of being a university student is where you live. And for freshmen especially, residence halls are the key to that. And so there's a lot of things to think about, but to think about, prepare for it, but not in an intimidated or an overwhelming way, but in an exciting blank canvas. I love that came up a number of times in this episode, that blank canvas, you can do just about anything you want to do with it, and that's such an exciting time. And so if you're listening and you heard some tips, the resources we talked about, the websites we talked about, they will be listed in the bio as always. We'll have those there. You can click on them. You can follow them. If you want to give us a call at McKinley, we'll be happy to direct traffic for you. Call any of the residence halls, front desk. If you're living it, go talk to the front desk workers, talk to your RAs, find out the information, because it's there, and the information is there, and we want to give it to you. Every group and every activity that we have, someone has worked hard on because they're passionate about it. And so we want to share that with you so you can be a part of it. So please reach out, have those conversations, continue the conversation. If you have questions, you have comments, you can let us know here at Healthy Illini. We'd love to hear from you. We just want to know how you're doing and how we can help you have the best academic year that you can possibly have. But thank you for joining us today. You are on a personal journey no matter where you are in it. You are important and you matter. Your health and wellness are important and matter, and we're here to keep you well to excel. So go have a great week, Illini. Let us know how you're doing, and we'll catch you next time on Healthy Illini.